All right, good evening, everyone. Uh, Today, in the second session, we're going to start. Before that, I would like to discuss or remind you what we discussed in the last week, actually, last lecture. So, in the last lecture, I didn't do any special things. Instead of what I discussed the introduction, basic things to cybersecurity, just introduction. So, we discussed mainly we require integrity, confidentiality, and availability of information. And then, in addition to that, you need to achieve other features such as digital signatures, authentication, authorization, and so on. And then I mentioned that we need to have security controls to achieve those. Most of the security controls are most important security control is cryptography controls. So I discussed roughly uh, three set of cryptographic algorithms. One is a hashing algorithm, other one is a symmetric key, and the next one is the symmetric key. I will do other session on that. I feel you need that before I move on to the cyber security protocols. Uh, so then we discuss all those security algorithms, including our software controls such as username and password based on the random number, what you call as security key. So all the strength of security in basic security controls such as cryptographic algorithms and username password depend on a security key. So this any security key available for us can be brute force. So that risk we always have. So because of that, we usually need to use larger keys. Obviously, you understand that when you use larger keys, we may have a problem of remembering them. So we need to get some kind of compromise there. So I already showed you some websites where we can reverse the hashes because when you use passwords, basically those passwords are stored as hash values. So then we need to, sometimes people may reverse them. So I'll discuss it later on, this hash reversing and things like that again in another lecture. So today, before I start, as a continuation of the last week, I would like to show you a simple website where you can try the strength of the password and practice how to generate a strong password. So let me share it with you. Uh, uh, this website, I, since you are online, you can all visit this website. Uh, Password.kaspersky.com. So this is a very interesting, very simple web page, website where it shows the users how to create a strong password for their kind of day-to-day activities. So, for example, if I use password such as 1234567 8, you may see that it immediately says 1 second to break. So there are different breaking techniques in addition to the brute force. So because of that, you might see it's very easily break. So if I use some mixtures of those passwords, you might see it take a longer time to break. So for instance, this password which I type require 12 days to break, like that. I'm not advising you to type your password there, right? That it's not advisable. They claim that they are not recording those passwords, but we never know. But you can use that to show the people and how we can generate a strong password or the strong keys for that. So at least I think we need to have eight characters in a password right now, and as you know, some combinations of keys numbers, hash values, and things like that, numbers and some special characters like that. So you might understand that unless otherwise you combine those things, your password or the key will break within hours or maybe within milliseconds times. Uh, so so that's kind of a short reminder for you what we discussed in the last week and where we stopped. Remember this website, keep a bookmark on it, and then you can try it later on and share with your colleague, and then kind of practice generating stronger keys. Because any security, any cyber systems, when you apply it, username and the password is first security control. So in there, if you use password, then there are no security after that all. Right. So that's the basic thing you need to do, having a strong password systems. Right. With that, I will move on to the lecture today. And even in the lecture today, I will also show you some demos, as some students have suggested me on the first lecture. They would like to see some demos and things like that. And they can do hands-on, they can do the things while I'm showing the demo on their computers if they wish. Right. I'm not going fast. Right. So let's back to the lecture today. As you may see, so today what I would like to discuss is viruses and malicious codes. Uh, so when you come to viruses and the malicious codes, viruses are a small tiny part of the domain of malicious codes. Let's try to understand first what uh, what the software is. So usually, in the computer science or in the cyber security or whatever, we are interact with the software system. So the main fundamental questions you can ask yourself and the others: can we trust this software? What is the guarantee we get? This software may not have any vulnerabilities. This software may not have any bugs. What kind of guarantee you get? Usually you don't get anything. You get some set of software, maybe from known companies, maybe from unknown companies. You install those software in your machines by assuming it has genuine codes. But we never know. It might have errors, bugs, or someone else may plant some bogus codes there. So who knows? So especially, these softwares developed by the people like you and me. So do you have kind of a confidence that you write a software without having any errors? No, no. If you are software engineers, even I write a code sometimes by mistake or without thinking. I might introduce some bugs or the bad lines of codes. We never know. So because of that, so main fundamental question we have is, can we trust the software, right? So basically, we can't. The simple answer from me is we can't. So the other fundamental question what we should ask, when you have a software, is that software do what they're supposed to do? So if the software is about the word processing, it should only do about the word processing. It should not collect your email addresses or other details. If a software about kind of to write emails, it should not look at the other tasks. So basically, what we say, softwares what we use should do what they're supposed to do. Any software which do what they are not supposed to do, we call them as the malicious software. Malicious software. So any software which is not doing what they are not supposed to do or not intend to do, so these all that software are categorized as malicious software. So the virus is only a small part of in this domain of malicious software. In addition to the viruses, there are so many malicious softwares, Trojan horses, logic bombs, worms, zombies, and they have different names. They have similarities and the differences and so on. Let's in theoretically have a look what is the types of malicious softwares. Basically, in generally, we can see two types of malicious softwares in our life. Uh, One set of malicious softwares always require a host program to be live. In the other set of malicious softwares are independent. So when you go into the first category, so in the first category of malicious software, what we call is a trapdoors. So those trapdoors are the softwares where basically people, coders or the programmers develop some logins, hidden logins, where they can enter into the program later on, enter into those servers later on and do some malicious actions. So then we can see some bad software called logic bombs. Logic bombs are the codes introduced by the software developers at the time they are writing this software to do the malicious actions. For example, somebody can maybe write a code while he are developing a payroll system, saying if my employee ID is not available in this system, let's delete all the record. Some might may introduce such malicious code in uh, at the time of development. So, so if they introduce that, then what's happened? If yes, this employer, let's say this programmer fired out from the company, then his employee ID is not available, and then all the database get deleted. So then he did what he not supposed to do. So that code, kind of similar codes are called as logic bombs. Then there's a dangerous set of other malicious softwares available, what we call it as Trojan horses, especially people who are using pirated softwares get Trojan horses free of charge. Normally, with the pirated software like games and other things, bad guys they included those Trojan horses. Trojan horses are the softwares included inside the malicious genuine softwares. So when the genuine software or the real software runs, there is a Trojan horse also runs in behind. So then people who using the real software may not realize Trojan horses are inside. So those Trojan horses are do so many malicious things. So for example, that might collect your credentials such as passwords, credit card numbers. That might collect your contacts, or that might use your processing power to do maybe crypto mining or some other password cracking task. Some might store some information or hard disk. Some might use your bandwidth to send spams like that. So the Trojan horses basically keep silent inside and keep running in your computers. When you analyze number of softwares, malicious softwares in the world, I will show you some statistics. Trojan horses are the highest volume. So people think in among the malicious software category, viruses are the highest volume. No, the Trojan horses are the highest volume. We can see most of the malicious softwares are the Trojan horses. The name comes from the famous Roman story from this Trojan horse, wooden horse, which used a very long time ago. Right. Then we can discuss our well-known friend, right? Viruses. So viruses are the codes basically which are planted, hosted inside the other programs. So when you think about the three malicious chaos categories which we discussed, let me go back to the categories. So we are in the discussing now malicious programs under category of need hosts. So then we discuss three categories: trapdoors, logic bombs, and Trojan horses. Among these three, all those three bad code or the malicious codes are not auto-propagate. That means if Trojan horses are included in one game, that may not automatically infect it to the other game. No. If that game installed by someone else, he might get the Trojan horses, but it not spread from one host program to the other host program. No, they are kind of stay with the infected software only. So then the virus category is different. So we have the other category under host program category called viruses. So viruses are the malicious software which can auto spread. So if that malicious code in the software X, so they will basically search all the softwares which is not infected in your machine and then get infected with their codes. So there are some viruses which works independently as well. We'll come to that later on. So these are the four categories: trapdoors, logic bombs, Trojan horses, and viruses are the four categories which need the host program to live. And there are other two types of malicious software, as we can see, call it as worms and the zombies spreading over the cyberspace. So they are independent malicious codes. They don't need any host program. They can independently spread from one infected machine into the other similar machines. So similar machines with the machine has similar vulnerabilities. So among these worms and the zombies are the most dangerous, most popular malicious softwares nowadays. I'll discuss later on in detail. So viruses, worms, and zombies all can replicate, auto-replicate from one to other. The trapdoors, logic bombs, Trojan horses may not replicate. They stay with the code. Right. So that is very basic introduction of the malicious software. Let's start discussing viruses in detail. Viruses always need a host program to live, and it infect one computer or one program, and then try to spread all over the other programs. So the virus code usually call it as payload. So the payload is basically write to other codes. In the history to right now, we can see so many viruses. So those viruses usually categorize into different categories. So some of these categories are not exist anymore. Some exist. Among those virus categories, most popular virus categories nowadays are encrypted virus, polymorphic virus. Both are kind of same category, and the macro viruses. When you go into the polymorphic virus, let's discuss in detail a little bit about it. Usually in the viruses are some malicious code, as you know. So if we infected in one program, and then if we going to infect the same virus code, or what we call it as payload, to the other program, so that program may contain the same payload. So then if the virus scanners are usually, we will discuss later on as well, scan the known payloads, what we call it as virus signatures. While they are scanning the known payload, if the same code exists in the other program, virus scanners identify that other program also has the virus. The viruses don't want to see that. Virus want to spread as much as possible without detecting. For that, they use these, what we call it as polymorphic techniques. Or they implemented virus techniques, but they call it as polymorphic viruses. Polymorphic viruses, their virus body is different from one infection to the other infection. So in order to achieve this polymorphism, they use different methods. One method is kind of inserting similar opcodes. You know, if you add 0 to anyone or subtract 0, so XOR 0, or if you add no operation in the assembly level, all are same. So instead, if someone want to add 0, they in the other code they might say subtract 0. So like that. So then the final outcome is the same, but the code visible in the infection is the different. So then the virus scanners may not understand it is the same virus. So like that, they might change the body from one infection to the other infection, randomly change that. So other technique virus scanners use virus writers. used for having such is called encrypted viruses. In the encrypted viruses, they carry a small encryption header. So when they want to infect, they basically encrypt the code, encrypt the virus code, and write the encrypted code into the next infected file. So when the next infected file gets boots, so that consists of a small de-siphon routine or decryption routine. That routine will decrypt the body and then get the virus code and executes. So they encrypt their body from one infection to the other infection using different keys. So the body is different from one infection to the other. So then virus scanners get difficulties to detect them. So of course, for the encryption and decryption, they need the keys. So some viruses use the same key to do so. If so, virus scanners' jobs are simple because if they find the key, they can decrypt the body and then find the what type of virus it is. Some viruses use smart techniques not to use the same key. Instead of they are using dynamic keys, using a technique what they call it as environmental key generation. So they will dynamically generate keys. So using those dynamic keys, they know only they know how to generate these keys. So they do encryption and decryption. So for that, the virus body then is different from one infection to the other. Some viruses use asymmetric key cryptography as well for their hiding their body inside. And some viruses use asymmetric key cryptography to collect ransoms as well. Not only hide the body, but they hide the information of the users and ask ransom to decrypt that data. So that category of virus, call it as ransomware. So that is again a virus. It's a polymorphic virus, and specific type of polymorphic virus use asymmetric key cryptography is called as ransomware. I come to that in a minute. Right. So basically, in a typical polymorphic virus, nowadays available, there is a host program, small decryption header available, and then there is an encrypted virus body available. So when the host program loaded into a computer, so decryption header will run. They somehow collect the key from the environment and manage to decrypt the body. So after they decrypt the body, they basically execute the attack on the machine. Right. So in addition to those typical general virus, other dangerous kind of viruses are macroviruses. Macroviruses basically infected very long time ago, like in spreadsheets, there are spreadsheets called Lotus 123 long time ago. These viruses started from that age. Still, these viruses exist. So those viruses exist with the scripting feature of document types. So most of the documents, like Words or Excel, whatever, they provide the features of what they call it as macro scripting inside the document. So those scripts may execute while the document get loads. So then the scripting feature available, someone can write bad codes and hide into this document. So that is usually a macrovirus. So some people feel when they use kind of Word document or whatever, sorry, when someone use the Word documents or kind of spreadsheets, so they definitely, that documents may infected with the macroviruses. So Melissa is kind of a very old first generation of macrovirus, spreads a long time ago. So those kind of viruses are still available. So if any document viewer view the code automatically, so those macros will execute. If that document consists of a malicious code, that malicious code get executes. So the in other speaking, in other angle, macro viruses are OS independent, right? Because macro, this software, spreadsheet or whatever is the document software may run on Linux, run on Windows, whatever. So it runs on any OS. This macro virus may run on any OS. So it's a kind of independent virus, and because of that, most dangerous kind of viruses we can see today. One of the most interesting thing what I want to pay your attention is the PDF documents, because usually we are feel PDFs are virus-free documents. So when you get an attachment as a PDF, we usually open it. When you get a docx documents or a spreadsheet as an attachment, we suspect. We are not going to open it because we might think there are macro viruses there. So sometimes we may ask people, send it as PDF. So we trust the PDF documents. Unfortunately, these PDF documents also may contain the malicious codes. So any document which has scripting feature can consist of malicious codes. So PDF has a feature, especially Adobe provide the feature of scripting in their PDF document. So since Adobe provide the scripting feature into the PDF document, that could consist of the malicious code. Why not? How do you detect that? So there are very interesting set of tools available, free tool, and from a person called DJ Stevens. Some of you may know about those tools. He has plenty of tools, which security tools, which we can use to achieve different cyber security aspects. So I will show his page, and I will also show some of these tools where you can use to detect whether a PDF consists of macrovirus or not. Right. Let me show you the Stevens's webpage, so you can even download these tools uh, first, and then I will show you how we could use this Stevens's tool to find it out. PDF consists of a malicious code or not. All right. So I will share back the web page. This one. So this is the blog. This is Stevenson's. You can search for this Digest Stevenson's PDF tools. As I mentioned, he has plenty of tools. One of these tools are PDF parser, other one is a PDF ID, and then there is a whole make PDF ID, this one, and then PDF parser. These two can be used to detect the codes inserted into a PDF documents. And then there is another one called make PDF embedded file, and so and so. Those tools can use to embed bad code into a PDF as well. I'm not going to demonstrate. As I said, I am delivering this list in the angle of good people. So if you want to try the bad things, it's up to you, but I advise not to do that. But I will show you how to defend ourselves against such attacks. Right. So I have downloaded those tools into my computer. Let me share my terminal now. This is my terminal. So this set of tools are Python tools. I have PDF ID Python here. I have then some PDF document, as you might see here, and then I have this Python script. This Python script available. So from this Stevenson's web page, and this parser scripts available. So the first thing, if you very simple program, very important is this one, PDF ID. It's just a Python program. You can type Python and program name, or you can just run this script on the terminal like that, right? And then you can give a PDF document you want to test like that. Right. So I want to see whether hotel.pdf consists of a script. So I don't know whether it's malicious or not. I don't know whether that has a script or not. I just first want to check whether this has a script. So I run that. It shows all the objects embedded in the PDF document. So you see there are different types of objects which PDF has. So they listed how many these objects are available in this hotel.pdf document. So the dangerous kind of object is this, JavaScripts. So that is the scripts which automatically runs in a PDF document. As you may see here in this my test, it says one JavaScript available. That means it definitely had a code. It definitely had a code. I don't know this code is a malicious or bad code or good code, but I can guess there is a script embedded in that. That means if I open this hotel.pdf in Adobe Viewer, that script will execute. So the other viewers, sometimes the scripts are not executed. So if you use a typical Unix-based PDF viewers, most of the viewers, they are not executing scripts. If so, if there is a bad script, you may not get infected. So especially if you open those PDF document in the Adobe Viewer, Adobe automatically execute the scripts. So that's the risk comes from. Right. Now you know there is a script. So if you are interested to see what kind of script it is, so then you can use the other tool available, what we call it as PDF parser. PDF parser can parse um, any objects available in this PDF document. So what I want to pass here is a JavaScript object. So for example, I have this document called PDF Python tool called PDF parser. So I say, please give me the JavaScript object available in this hotel.pdf. How do you know JavaScript object available? I ran the PDF file, so that shows there is a JavaScript. Right, now I want to see the script. Right, so I run that. You see it's extracted the script, object number 7 is inside this PDF document. So that is a simple JavaScript which embedded in this particular PDF document, right? So this script will basically automatically executes when I open this PDF document on the Adobe Viewer. All right. Let me open this PDF now in the Adobe Viewer. So let me go to that directory and then I will share that window in a minute. So what I want to open is this hotel PDF with the Adobe Viewer, right? Uh, so I open with the Adobe Viewer and then share the window of PDF. So there you can see that. Right. So I think you see my PDF document, right? Have you seen my PDF document? Yes, it's consists of small. Maybe I will share my entire window. That's much better. Entire desktop. Let me share the desktop. So then we see the right. I share the desktop. So then you see my PDF document here. So which I open this PDF document in the Adobe Viewer. Let me go from the beginning. So you see that. So I think you see that. So there you see there is a window pop up. So this is a script execute automatic. So this script asks, are you going to read this document again? So maybe I say yes. So when I say yes, it says I am formatting your hard disk. Actually, it's not. So this script is embedded by myself into this PDF document. So I'm not formatting my hard disk myself, but just these are just the windows. But if it is a bad guy, they can do. If they want to format your hard disk, they can do. They can put a script there to do so. So you see, this is automatically executed. So it's in the PDF document. So for example, this is hotel PDF. So when I open it with the Adobe Viewer, that will automatically execute. So you see the scripts which embedded in there is automatically executed. So that is malicious scripts as an example. So that's what I want to show you. What I want to show you and what I want to give you a feeling that even PDF documents can carry macro viruses. So we cannot trust, even it is a PDF. Right. So then you might ask, how do you kind of find? So this tool, we can find the whether PDF has the malicious code or not. In addition to that, are there any general method of uh, finding viruses? So there's a very good website. Maybe you know about that. Well, it has Virus Total website. Have you go through that? So let me show. Let me show. I will share that my window back, my web browser back with you. All right. So this website, Virus Total. So this is a very good website. If you receive some documents, and you have no idea whether this document consists of malicious codes or not, if you are not familiar to use scripts like PDF ID, PDF parser, so what you can do is you simply upload your file to this website. You can choose your file, whatever. So I have some file here. Choose it and then upload it. So then when you upload that file to this particular online website, they search this file against all known virus scanners in the world, kind of. They have hundreds of virus scanners. So they scan your file against those and analyze and give you a report in a short time. So then you can get a feeling that is a clean document or has a malware on it. Uh, so you see there are, it's getting results from different virus scanning vendors, and then they are say undetected. So that means there are no virus. So these are the virus scanners kind of in the world. So they kind of test uh, uh, my document which I uploaded against all those virus scanners. So whatever the documents uploaded is kind of a clean document. So you see, none of them say it has a virus. So they are analyzing it against, I think, 49 scanners in the world. No more than that. No, still doing it. So then shortly they will give you results, say whether that is clean or not. You see, all the known virus scanners are in the list. So they test against all those. So, so that is very good website. Not only documents, sometimes websites may also consist of malicious codes. So if you have suspected website, you can give a URL of that website to this virus total and detect that. So you see, it says clean, no engine detected, no bad things are there, no virus engines inside. So it's a clean document. So like that, you can search URLs, suspected websites, and you can search other informations and so on related to malware and things like that. So the virus total is kind of a very good website where you could use when you are fight against malicious codes, online malicious codes. All right. So we can move on now. Virus total. Right. So then we will discuss a little bit of how these viruses get spread and how that kind of infected you and so and so. Basically, viruses do different techniques to infect themselves to the program, attached to the programs. Theoretically, we say some virus append to the host program, some virus around in it, some virus integrate their code to the program, and some virus replace entirely host program. So the most easy way is append it. So most of the virus basically append. So there is original code, original source code, original program code, add the virus code. So then virus loads, and then virus will load original codes. First the virus codes will load, and after that the original loads. Then in sorry, then in other techniques, virus that surrounds, that means original code is there, then it add the virus codes on the top and to the bottom. So at the beginning virus codes will load, then original program will load. At the time to time virus loads other infection codes. And then there is a technique called integrated viruses. In the integrated viruses, virus code will put it into the different places of the host program. So why they do that? So then it hard to detect by the scanners. So some viruses entirely replace the host program, then you may not do anything. So you may only load the virus code. That kind of viruses are very rare. So what we can see is this technique. Most of the viruses commonly do this technique, append to the original. Right. Any virus, when you analyze their life cycle, they basically have 4-stage life cycle. So in the first stage, usually we call it as dormant phase. Second, we call it as propagation phase. Third, we call it as triggering phase. And the fourth is the execution phase. So that is the virus usually in one of these phases in their life cycle. So in the dormant phase means they are not doing anything. They just keep sleep in your machine. And after they keep in your machine, what they do, they study your machine. So how many executables are there? Do you have internet connections? And how many space is available in your machine? And like that, they just keep sleeping and analyze the host computer. After that, they enter into what we call it as propagation phase. In the propagation phase, they try to infect your programs as much as possible. So they in the Roman phase, they analyze, they knows how
Sir,
many. Yes,
sir, you
sure.
maybe share your screen desktop, not a slide.
Sorry. Thank for the mistake. I will share my
Yes, yes,
slides back. Uh,
yes.
got
Now,
the slides?
yes. This slide.
Okay, I will go back and then uh, explain it again. So
Yes,
now you see the slides, right?
yes, sir. Okay.
Right. There are 4 techniques of attaching the virus, which I discussed: append, surround, integration, and replacement. And most popular method is appending. Appending means, as I mentioned, the virus code will append to the top and the original program to the bottom. So when the program loads, first it loads the virus code. So, and then virus code will load the original program. So then virus code can control the original program execution, plus virus do the bad things. And then there is a technique called append surrounding, so that they put the part of the code to the end and the part important part to the beginning. And then there is a method called integrating, which integrate all everywhere. Why they want to do so? Then the scanners have to detect them. And some viruses entirely replace host program, but most of the viruses are not doing that now. So most of the viruses either do this integration or either do this. So these are the two methods they are using to attach their code to the host program. Then I was discussing how do you uh, what are the spaces, what are the life cycle of a virus. So basically, in the virus, we have 3 stages in the virus life cycle. What we call is a dormant space, dormant stage, propagation stage, triggering stage, and execution stage. Dormant stage, viruses are just sleeping. They don't do anything. Actually, they are not harming you. They do action, but they are not harming. They keep silent as sleeping, and they analyze the host machine to see whether how many files this virus get infected before, and what are the spaces available, whether internet available, and what kind of confidential data available. Like that, they silently analyze your computer in the dormant phase. After that, they enter into the propagation phase. In the propagation phase, what they do, infect the files as much as possible. So that's the idea of propagation. So they first check whether the executables or the programs in your machine is already infected or not. If this is by himself, then if it is not infected, they infected it. So then how the virus knows whether he is already infected? So that is very interesting question. All the virus keep some kind of a signal for that. So this signal is called as a signature of a virus. So this signature is maybe a number or maybe a sequence pattern of execution or maybe a pattern of communication. By looking at that, virus can understand whether he has already in that particular host program. So they have to do so. Otherwise, they will infect themselves into the same code and they are entering into an infinite loop. They don't want to do so. They want to infect a program if their code is not there anymore. Because of that, they have to detect whether they already infected this file before. For that, they keep some marks there. So those marks are called as the virus signature. So the same marks used by the virus scanners to detect viruses. I'll discuss in a minute. Right. In the propagation phase, they search for the virus signature, their signature. If that signature is not seen in some files, they infected that. So like that, they complete the infection. Then they go into the triggering phase. In the triggering phase, they trigger their actions and execution. Went to the final phase, what we call execution. That is damage your data or damage your computer or whatever. Right? If you feel there is a virus actually in the triggering or the execution phase. So if you kind of feel you got the virus infection, when the virus enter into the after virus enter into the triggering or execution phase. So then you have to understand at that moment the virus is already propagated. So that is 100% sure. So if you kind of feel the virus is in your computer, so at that moment, you should know this virus is entirely infected in your file system. So none of the virus, as my knowledge, may not go into the execution phase before doing propagation. So they do propagation first and then go to the triggering and execution. So that is the phases of virus. Right. Now let's see what is virus signatures. Virus signatures are a very interesting concept for the virus authors, bad guys, as well as virus scanners, good guys. So in the virus, authors or the people who develop the virus use the signatures to identify themselves. Otherwise, their code may write on top of the same code. So then what happened? Then they may override themselves. The viruses don't want to do that. So that they will keep some certain patterns in their code. So that is called as a virus. Right. There is a question. Is there any question? We can get a question if you're interested. Okay. Maybe I move on and maybe later at the end I take all the questions. Right. Okay. Then there are different signature types we can see. So for example, example, the code pattern may be used as a virus signature. Then we can use as the execution pattern as a virus signature. Maybe we use kind of a hash or MD5 checksum as a virus signature. Execution pattern, I mentioned that as a virus signature. Like that, there are several transmission pattern techniques they use as the virus signatures. So virus signatures used for two things. First, to detect himself by the viruses, and to virus scanners, the virus signature is important because virus scanners use signatures to identify the type of the virus. Right. So then we move on to the other Other category of malicious codes, what we call it as worms. Worms are self-replicating malicious codes. They don't need host programs. Sometimes there are viruses also spread without host programs. But most of the programs which spread without host, we usually call them as worms. From the beginning to right now, there are different kinds of worms available. So I mentioned some names here. Uh, so among the worms, so the first worm, what we call it as Morris worm, infected in the internet a long time ago, like 20 years ago, not 20, like 40 years ago in 1988. Uh, no, 30, no, uh, kind of. Since then, there are different worms. Usually, what worms do, worms find a weakness in the server, maybe a web server or any other server, and using that weakness or what we call vulnerability, worms enter into that server and then write their code into this particular server machine. So then worm execute itself from that machine and search the internet to find the similar vulnerable servers. And then they spread the code from from the infected machine into the similar vulnerable machine. Like that, they do multiple replications. So then within a short period of time, if there are millions of machines in the network, they can infect them all. That's how worms works. So nowadays, most dangerous kind of malicious softwares are called zombies or the botnets. Some of you may know about those. So zombies, some people call them as zombies, some people call them as bots. So those bots or the zombies works in very interesting way. So basically, when you take a virus, so let's say I am a virus author, I wrote a virus and I release that. I have no control after that. So that virus may come back and infected my machine as well. So there are no control over the virus I created to the owner it created. But when you take a zombie or the bot network, it's a different. So the zombies or what you call it bots are the codes, malicious codes which runs on different machines, infected machines in the world, which controlled by the attacker. So all those machines after this board infected, so they are not attacking or executing their attacks on those machines. They keep silent, stay in those infected machines until someone command them. So the person who command those zombies or the network, call it as a zombie network or a zombie network or a bot network. So the server which used to pass those commands are called it as command and control, command and control center, command and control center. So this through the command and control center, basically attacker pass commands to the botnets or the bots. So based on the attacker commands, bots do various bad things. What kind of bad thing they do? They basically send the spams. They basically attack someone else, executed distributed denial of service attacks. So maybe they execute some crypto mining or some other processing tasks on your machine, like that. So other difference which we can see in between virus and the bots, viruses basically disturb you. They disturb your machine, they disturb your action, they try to delete your files and so and so, but bots are not doing that. What the bots want to do is hide your machine as much as possible, as long as possible. So then you uh, uh, so then what's happened if the attacker execute those commands, what's happened? These individual bots or those zombies execute that. So since attacker wants to hide these zombies, so those zombies or the bots are not doing bad things. So that's the other difference between virus and those zombies. Zombies usually talks to those attacker via some central servers. Most of those central servers are the chat servers like Google Hangout, Twitter, or kind of any web, any social networking server can be used as a command and control centers. So what these zombies do at the after infected, they connect to those channels, chat channels, or the kind of tweeting threads on the command and control server. Then the attacker also joined that. So then attacker chat with those zombies. So that's what happened. So then you might ask how those zombies get infected. There are different techniques. So especially same as virus, so that zombies can get infected. So that means basically uh, uh, as an email attachment or some you can use it using a USB drive, whatever these zombies can spread there. The most dangerous method of spreading zombies are voluntary spreading. So there are sometimes there are terrorist groups and kind of groups demanding some things over the internet. So what they do, they put some kind of zombies and ask the people who supporting them to install those zombies. So that's what we call is a voluntary distribution. So this voluntary distribution is most dangerous because sometimes there are some thousands, millions of supporters on some groups. So then the attacker, what they can do, they ask their followers to install the zombies voluntarily in their machines. So then at some point, the attacker can ask those machines which he can control remotely to execute a deniable service attack, distributed deniable service attack on the websites. So then if such attack executed, so very hard to countermeasure on because those are voluntary machines spread all over the world and those attacks coming through all over the world. So then it's really hard to find it out who is the attacker and how to, then it's really hard to kind of mitigate these attacks. Right, maybe I will show you some websites which is interesting to see what kind of attacks, what kind of malware spreading going right now. So there are some sites. Let me see whether I go back to my browser. And then I think I have put some bookmarks. Kaspersky has some web page, a cyber threat real map, which shows the malicious attack right now. So there are some phishing attacks, whatever attacks there. And then these are the communication. These lines shows communication between malware. So the Sri Lanka right now is 31st most attacked country in the world. And these are the methods they collect these threads. When we go to the data sources, so we can say this Kaspersky, how do they collect those information to present it? Like on access, there are scanners. There are scanners on access, scanners, mail, antivirus scanners. They have their softwares running all over the world. From those softwares, they have collect those attacking information right now ongoing, and then they put it into this kind of world map to give you a feeling what's going on this right now on the cyberspace, what kind of bad things going on the cyberspace. So you can see different statistics against different countries and so on. So for example, when you go down on the statistic page, so you can maybe select a country, maybe Bangladesh, and then so these are the attacks. So there is a Trojan horse right now, kind of spreading in Bangladesh. 14% of kind of communication the last week is this Trojan horse, and then there was a virus like that. So these are the detection in last week. So you can see when you go into the last month, so this is kind of propagation. Again, this Trojan horse kind of spreading in the Bangladesh networks. Like that, you can get a feeling about different countries and the activities, whether there is a activities, huge set of activities or malicious activities happening in the world right now. Similarly, not only the Kaspersky, uh, uh, not only the Kaspersky, some other they also do this attack. Uh, this website, Checkpoint, the kind of kind of popular firewall. Checkpoint also has the world map, which shows communication between malware around the world. So you see different countries right now, which malwares there, and kind of attacks going from source to the targets right now in the world in this last couple of minutes. So by looking at that, you could get a feeling about whether your country is kind of under attack or not, or whether those attackers are interesting on your country at that moment or not. So there is something going to Malaysia, as you might see, from China to China and so on. So this information they are gathering from checkpoint firewalls and then checkpoint sensors. They have put it all over the world like that. So these are the kind of websites live and running to get you a feeling the behaviors of malware in the world. Right. Now we go back to my slides. Let me see. Right. So you got back my slides, right? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let's discuss about now ransomware. Ransomwares are the new kind of viruses which use to collect ransom. So the BitLocker, like that. There are so many other. I could remember their names as well. So many ransomwares. So those ransomwares, what they do when they infect someone, they create a private key. They carry the public private key. The US works on the asymmetric key. Yeah, the virus author owner has a private key. The virus basically carry the public key. They use two techniques. One technique is they directly encrypt your files using the public key, or in the other technique, they create a symmetric key, session key, and use that session key to encrypt your data, and then encrypt that session key back to the attack. So then they show up a message and ask a ransom. Especially they are asking a ransom in the form of Bitcoin right now. So you have to pay them using Bitcoin or cryptocurrency. So after you pay them, they will give a key to decrypt that data back. So, but we are never sure they will give the key, but you can try. So the ransomware are kind of other bad code of viruses we have to face nowadays. Right. We can move on and now discuss a little bit of antivirus techniques. So now you have get a feeling about malicious code, what kind of malicious codes are available and their behaviors, and then how do we detect them and get a feeling about how it works and so and so. So now what are the techniques to overcome with those malicious software? So as you know, the virus case, antivirus software are the common method of removing the virus. Antivirus softwares are nothing else like scanners, searching machines. So what they search for is the signatures. Signatures are the patterns of the viruses. So then when new virus comes, it is a new pattern. It is a new signature. Because of that, we have to kind of upgrade our virus signature database regularly, because regularly new viruses comes, So we have to keep updating our virus signature database. So then the virus scanners, antivirus scanners, what they do, they basically search the signatures, and if they're detected, they know that particular virus are there, then they know how to remove that. So if virus is polymorphic virus, or what we call is an encryption virus, then virus scanners has a problem. So because of that, some virus scanners, what they do, they let the virus to run to some extent in a virtual machine, kind of virtual machine they are having. And then if it is encrypted virus, after some execution, virus itself will decrypt their body, then virus scanners see that. So before putting the code into a real machine, they put the code in a kind of virtual machine, and then detect the virus there, and then remove that, because most of the viruses are encrypted virus right now. So if they directly look at it, they may not see that. So this scanning job is not a simple job right now, right? So then how do you hide the virus? In 10-15 years ago, writing a virus is a hard job. But writing a virus is a very simple job now. But detecting the virus is a hard job now. So that's the problem what we are facing nowadays. So basically, virus creation is a simple task now. There are tools, there are frameworks, there are generators available, kind of virus engines available. So using those, even people who don't have knowledge about computer science or the programming can create viruses. So on the other hand, after someone create a virus, detecting them is a hard task. So that's the challenge we are facing right now. What are the countermeasures? How do we protect ourselves against virus? Basically, we never know at which time our file get infected with a virus. Because of that, always it is advisable to keep our backups, keep the backups of our important data. So then we say, please keep the backups in write-only devices. So like maybe a device which only we can write, like a CD and whatever. Why we do so? Why we tell so? Because if you keep a backup, let's say even in read-write devices, if a ransomware comes on, they might lock that. Right? If it is put it into write-only devices, if ransomware get infected in your backup, so then they cannot encrypt your backup because it's a write-only. So your data is safe. So the other thing is, maybe if you have confidential data, you can keep encrypt that data. So if you keep encrypt that data, especially when ransomware comes, ransomware see the encrypted data, and then they cannot understand it is what kind of data it is. So like they cannot access the data to encrypt. So then before they encrypt, you encrypt it. So that's the other advice I can do. And then you have to disable auto-run features of any viewer, mail or whatever viewers. And of course, you have to install antivirus software. Maybe you can have simple personal firewall installs and like that. So most importantly, I advise you to use open source operating systems. I'm not going to name operating systems, but I honestly tells I'm only use Linux or Ubuntu based machines and Mac machines in my life. And any of these machines, I never ever use a virus scanner till right now. I'm in this information security domain over now kind of 20 years time. So I worked there. In those 20 years, I never use a virus scan. I don't have virus scan even in this machine now. Maybe someone can attack me. That's a different story. But I personally, by experience, I noticed very less viruses in some operating systems, and especially very less number of attacks in the open source software. That doesn't mean this open source software may not have viruses. Open source software has viruses, and it can virus can spread on the operating systems like Linux or Ubuntu. Then why we cannot see a high volume there? So there should be a reason for that. No, my justification, my personal justification is this. So usually if the software is closed source, if it has a bug, so first of all, we have to inform it to the owner of the software. So when you inform it to the owner of the software company, usually that company is denied that. Then if the 1,000 people start informing that, so that company may say, we will look into that. So then if maybe 10,000 people start complaining, that company will say okay, we will release the patch to this security problem. So then kind of after 3 to 6 months, they will release the patch. So if you have then using the paid software from that particular company, you will receive the patch. So if you are using pirated software, so you may not receive the patch. That means you keep remaining with this security bug. So usually bug fixing time for the closers of the commercial software is 3 to 6 months. So that time is enough for the bad guy to write a worm or write a zombie or write a virus and get a commercial advantage, right? So in the other hand, when you go into the open source software, the situation is different. So if someone see the problem, someone else will automatically fix that. So then, so no one will wait. Uh, so they will themselves fix it, and then of course the code maintainers will push that fix, and they release that fix, and then all the people get this fix. So usually within less than 3 months, most of the open source softwares, especially operating systems, bugs get fixed. Sorry. Because of that, so virus or the bad guys has less time frame, very restricted time frame to work with that. So they don't want to do so. They want to get a long lifeline to get more profit. So if you, so they are not interested on the open source operating system. So that's the reason. If even they interest, and if they even they try to do a damage, the time they can do that damage is very short comparing to the commercial software. That's my justification. Why the open software has less malicious codes comparing to the commercial softwares in the world. All right. So as a conclusion, what we can say that basically malicious code are everywhere. We cannot say any code is trusted software. So they might have known or unknown bugs. So this battle between those bad guys and the good guys will continue. Sometimes people say antivirus software vendors are the people who are writing virus as well. We never know. And then in the cryptography, so basically we use for good purposes. However, nowadays people will use cryptography for bad purposes as well. So like writing ransomware. So because of that, we have to kind of live with those bad guys. We have to kind of fight against this bad software. So the in case of viruses, so my advice is just jump out of that cycle and use kind of open source software or open source operating system. Then you can have less problem comparing to the use commercial operating system in the world. So if you are capable of. Otherwise, you have to definitely, if you use other operating systems, you have to use a antivirus up to software. Just installing antivirus software is not enough. You have to keep it up to date, and then you have to use kind of some personal firewalls, and then you have to keep backups. Whichever operating system you use, you have to keep backups of those softwares. That is the most important thing. Uh, your data, actually, backup of your data, is because we never know ransomware will encrypt our hard disk or not. So we need to keep the backups of the data, and also we need to kind of up to date our software. Need to patch the software because softwares may have bugs. Companies will release the fixes until otherwise you apply the fix, so you may run in the buggy software. Because of that, you need to keep update your software all the times, or the operating systems, other softwares. You need to keep installing your updates all the times. Otherwise, you may end up with these attacks, or you may have to face those attacks. I think that's for the moment. I did all the lecture one shot without taking questions. So I think there are questions typed in. As you may have some questions, some of you may already raise hands, I noticed. So we can take few questions and then start discussing about what we discussed so far. Right. Let me answer a few questions already typed in. So, for example, Ripan is asked how to increase the security of the software. So it's a very good question. So especially in the software industry now, taking measurements for that. So far, in the software industry, what they develop the software. After that, they put it into the quality assurance cycle. So that means they after write everything, they do testing. So then if that testing goes fails, and then they inform that to the development back, and then developer again fix that, put it back to the testing like that. So security testing is after the software development so far. Now that changed. Now basically most of the software companies, were leading companies, they put it the security to the life cycle of software development. There are secure software development life cycles or secure software development tools available in the world right now. So there are frameworks, tools available. Now we do develop the software with security. So that's the change what we have done so far to answer the question, to make this untrusted software we have into kind of trusted software in the future. Then if we do so, all the software companies do so, we may have less problems in the future. Then there is a question asking, clear me a malicious program. Malicious program is any program which are not intended to do what they're supposed to do. So for example, if you buy a program for word processing, if they do kind of email, so that is a malicious software, because they are not supposed to do emailing. They are not supposed to transfer your files. They are word processing. So whatever the software, what we buy has to do what they're supposed to do. Any software which are not doing what they are not supposed to do, consider as malicious software. Type of malicious softwares are, as I said, viruses, Trojan horses, zombies, bots, and so many others. Then there is a question saying payload means the size of the malicious instruction. Yes, actually, main malicious instruction is the payload. Payload is the size of the malicious instruction, correct. And then there is a question, how can I get the full video of every session? Maybe our Bangladesh friends, they will share the entire video on the LMS after the lecture, I guess. So then there is a question, is it possible to upload lecture videos in YouTube? That's, I don't know. Maybe our Bangladesh friends who may be hosting this course will let you know. Then there is a question, which tools is used to create virus? So many tools. I couldn't recommend or I couldn't discuss that. As I said, I don't want to do so. And then there is a question, is it possible to recover encrypted data attacked by the ransomware? My simple answer is no. So if you, because those ransomware use uh, uh, most hardest cryptographic algorithms sometimes, like AES, RSA, like that algorithms they use to encrypt our hard disk. So it's very hard to get them back. So only way is we can pay them and get the key, but we never know they will give us the key or not. Because of that, we must take the precautions. We must take the precautions before the attack. Before the attack, that means keep the backups. Keep the backups. Keep the backups only write-only devices. So then your data is safe. Then there is a question: if I use Linux operating system, how percentage attack may be? So my experience, I was using Linux laptop as well from 2000, kind of 1999 to 2019. I'm using Ubuntu. in my laptops. I never use a virus scanner. I never got attacked on those machines. So that doesn't mean you may not get it, but very less chance. I personally feel is like less than 10% of the attacks on Linux-based operating system. So all 90% on the commercial operating systems. So I explained the reason for that. You understand that, I guess. So then there is the question asking when organization is the government or federal security related, in which one we prefer open source software and operating system license to reduce maximum cyber threats. So as you know, maybe you know the most kind of powerful cyber security and every other weapons and everything, the powerful government in most in the world right now is US. So US government use SE Linux. SE Linux. Maybe you heard about security and NOS Linux for their military grade requirements, plus other high security requirements. There is the Linux version called SE Linux, Security and NOS Linux. So that is the kind of most hardened kind of Linux-based operating system, which has less problems and the use in the government organization. In the typical other, not the military, in the other government institutes. So I recommend any other Linux versions like Debian-based one or Red Hat-based one. Red Hat might be expensive for support, maybe Debian or Ubuntu. Ubuntu operating system can reduce the cost plus get the maximum security. So most of Sri Lankan, our university, basically we use Ubuntu. Ubuntu servers and Ubuntu desktops, laptops in our students' labs and everywhere we use Ubuntu. And then there is a question, good antivirus for Windows can be used. So I don't know actually, honestly speaking, I'm not using any antivirus. For me, all the antivirus are the same. So the strength in the signature database. So it doesn't matter you are using Kaspersky or Norton or I don't know the latest virus scanners because I'm not using the virus scanners. So any virus scanners are fine. The most important thing is virus signature database. You have to keep update your virus signature database. If you have up-to-date virus signature database, then you are safe. So that's the most important thing. Then there is a question, how frequent we need to update the software patches. Frequent means whenever they release. Whenever they release, because they are releasing the patch, especially commercial software releasing the patch, usually after maybe 3 months. So maybe you heard about some people talks particular zero-day attacks. Zero-day attacks means the attacks which don't have any patch. So for example, if attacker realize or bad guy realize there is a bug and still we don't have patch for that bug, so that call is as a zero-day attack. So because the developers have 0 day to fix the bug. So that's why we call it as 0 day, because the attackers, bad guys already found the hole. But the developers then have 0 days to fix it. So because of that, we call as 0 day attacks, right? So then soon as this developer fix that, we have to install it. So then there are no, we cannot say every day or every month like that. So always soon as this any software inform there is a patch, you need to update. Otherwise, you are in trouble. And then there is a question asking. Last month, I have seen that article which says that sometimes antivirus can be troublesome because some of them is working like viruses. So how can we visualize the right antivirus? So this is very hard to answer the question because I also feel that. So you are correct. Mihun Kumar is also correct. So I even get this same criticism from the conferences I noticed. So some people criticize antivirus companies are the people who are creating the viruses as well. We never know. We never know. There are no evidence of obviously to prove that, but we can guess because if there are no viruses, they don't have business. So they have to keep then putting virus to the world, cyberspace, to keep earned. So then as a users, we have to understand we need to jump out of that loop. So use open source operating system plus open source software. So that's my advice. And then there is a question, is there any automated way to find Trojan horses from the Ubuntu piece? So there are tools available. I could remember the name of those tools. There are tools. There are tools available. So maybe I will let you know later on. So to even you can search on Google. So using that you can find it out whether there are Trojans on the Ubuntu PCs. Or else you can use a personal firewall or install a personal firewall and ask to send your traffic through that and see whether that machine is talked to unwanted servers, right? By looking at the sockets opens and the communication patterns, you can detect whether you have a Trojan horses on any PC, Ubuntu or whatever, any PC. Then there is a question, what are the open source operating system easily available and after sales service satisfactory? Since I am not a commercial person, I cannot answer after sales service part. So I recommend, if you are a regular user, I recommend Ubuntu. I recommend Ubuntu operating system. Very, very lightweight, nice operating system. Where in our university is used for now over 20 years. How can I trust software? No answer for that. No way to trust software. So the software always has bugs. Software industry is a very strange industry. I will discuss that later on. So always software may have bugs. So there are no way we can say this is a bug-free software. And then there's a question, what are the requirements for public key crypto? Maybe such questions are coming up. So I will give in the next session, I give a brief introduction to public key cryptography, hashing, and asymmetric key encryption. I will give a brief introduction, otherwise you may not be able to understand the web security protocols such as TLS and things like that. So hold on, this Pradeep, I will give you in the next session, I'll discuss, spend some time to explain the public key cryptography in very abstract level, right? Uh, there's a question from Sami. You said that open source application system is more secure than the. So I'm confused why bank in Nepal uses commercial software like Prometheus rather. So actually I am telling that so open source software has less patching time, or it has kind of open source software has less bugs comparing to the commercial software. Not less bugs, fixing time. Open source software has a less bugs fixing time comparing to the commercial software. So, for example, if some bugs found, uh, and in the commercial software may take 6 months to fix that, open source software may take 3 months to fix it. So that's what I am saying, telling them. So in the security strength wise, both has problems. Then we cannot say this one is more secure than that. So that's not I am telling that. I am telling that. So the fixing time of the bug in the open source software is less. Because of that, if there is a virus or the worms which affect that open software, will disappear within 3 months because that bugs is not anymore. So that virus cannot live anymore then. So if the closed commercial software, it can live for 6 months. But if the same thing does in open source, their lifetime is only 3 months. So that's what I am telling. So then if I ask the other part, that is why the banks in Nepal or any other country like to use commercial software. That's a completely different reason. So usually the commercial industries, they want to make someone else responsible. So that is a social thing. So for example, if you work in a company, let's say the bank, so there is a IT manager in the bank. So IT manager take the responsibility and you install the open source software and works on the bank. If something goes wrong, we never know. None of the software we can trust. So then the responsibility comes to the IT manager. So it's the problem of his job. So they don't want to do so. So because of that, they always like commercial software. So they purchase the commercial software with the company. So then that particular company take the liability. So if something goes wrong, so it's this manager is not responsible. Commercial software provider is responsible. So then it's a problem of responsibility or problem of liability. Who take the liability? Like that. If someone use a open source software, if it is not purchasing from support, if we are not purchase support from some company, no, there are nobody who take the liability if something goes wrong. Especially like banks, they don't want to go into that situation. They want to make someone to uh, grab. They want to make someone to take this liability. So that's why usually the banks, they like to go for commercial software. So that's my interpretation. And then there is a question: how can I understand or detect virus before execute? Execute can't. Usually can't. As I mentioned, if there is a virus scanner which knows that virus before already installed in your machine, you may detect that. Otherwise, at the time you may feel there is a virus, or your machine get infected. And then there is a question: how 8-character password is safer than other password? So any password we can execute what we call it as brute force attack. Brute force attacks means try all possible combinations. So if the size of the password is larger, the combination we want to try is larger. So for example, if 8 characters, that means 8 into 8, 64 bits. So there are maximum patterns in there is 2 to the power 64. So then if someone want to brute force, they have to search all the 2 to the power 64. So if password is 12, then 2 to the power 12. So the key space is larger. So if the size is larger, then larger, it's hard to break, hard to brute force. In addition to brute force, there are other attacks like what we call dictionary attacks, rainbow table attacks, and so on. So all those other attacks fails, finally we go into brute force. So if the brute force attacks depend on the size, so that's why we always use large size over 8-character password, because less than 8 characters, we can do brute force. We can try all possible combinations. So then there is a question: uh, are the Ubuntu operating system support MS Word and other popular software? Yes, not MS Word. It has OpenOffice, OpenOffice, open source operating systems, open source software like LibreOffice, OpenOffice, and so on. So that is compatible with MS Office as well. So even I'm connecting you with Mac. So they are using LibreOffice. I'm not using Microsoft Office. So then there is a question: how could I understand the threat is a virus or malware? And does it give us an alarm before? So actually, virus is a subset of malware. So don't confuse. Malware is a big name. So virus is a subset. So virus, zombies, worms, all are part of malware, right? So only way is having an anti malware software, or antivirus software is available, or a firewall. That's the only way of kind of detecting that. Then there is a question: some standard data sheets are available with different properties, attributes, announcing types of viruses according to the features. How can we differentiate what type of attack in our PC or software? Features. How can we differentiate what type of attack it in your? Uh, so basically, there are several types. No, the attacks might be to your software, or to your memory, or to your hard disk, or to your kind of communication, and so on. I'm not aware of like method of differentiate. So this question from Pramila Uttam is kind of confusing. Maybe I will take it later on. And then there is a question saying, can we see your screen? Let me see your screen. Actually, right now I'm not connecting for the Ubuntu. I'm connecting from a Mac operating system. So I will recommend to use Ubuntu because my other laptop basically use Ubuntu. And then there is a question: have any tool to secure server network from? There are no single tools. So when you move on, you might see different tools. So, example, today I show you Virus Total, and I give you this Stevenson's toolkit like that. When you move on, I will introduce you more tools. So you have to use one or more of those tools to secure your networks and your systems. And then, is it possible to decrypt ransomware infected file? Really hard. There are no straightforward way to decrypt the ransomware infected file. So you have to take the action before ransomware take action. Then, is there any way to know whether I am infected or not? Uh, Usually no way. So basically, if it is a zombie in there, so hard to detect. Unless if a person firewall installed, you may not be able to detect you are under attack. But you have in general, you should have a feeling about your computer, how fast it works, how fast it load your page, and it's a regular behavior. You should have a feeling. In case that regular behavior has deviations, then you can guess. Otherwise, if you have a good antivirus software installed, they may tell you whether you're infected or not. So these are the only two methods in which you can feel about that. What is the best way to prevent social engineering attack? So the best way to prevent social engineering attack is the awareness, education. So we have to educate the users not to get into those social engineering threats. So I have a lecture on privacy and social engineering later on in this class. So I will discuss that in detail there. Then there is a question, please explain life cycle of virus and bots. Basically, in the life cycle, I said 4 phases: dormant, propagation, triggering, and execution. Dormant, propagation, triggering, and execution. The dormant means the viruses basically analyze their environment. Propagation means they infect the virus. They spread their body as much as possible. Triggering means execute the attack. Executing means damage your system. So these are the 4 phases. And then there's a question, as passive attack will not harm your system, is there a chance to convert passive attack to that? We cannot say passive attack will not harm, because passive attack will also harm your information, or it's harm your data, because they may take your data take data later on. Active attack means a live ongoing attack. Passive attack means they collect the data and do something else, right? So it's harm yourself. Basically, passive attacks to active attack. So what usually happens is attackers do passive attacks to collect or get the knowledge about your environment. Then later on, they might do an active attack. So this passive attack may not directly transfer to the active, but usually attackers do passive attacks to get to know about your information system or your cyber system. Then, based on this information they collected, they will execute active attacks later on. That usually happens. And then there is a question, in which category does malware, spyware, adware, is it in the worms or the virus? Basically, malware is the main category. All the spyware, adware, worms, virus are under that, a subset of those. Uh, so spyware, adware, those things I discuss under email security lecture where I discuss. So those also the malware. They are also malware, malicious software in general. Malicious software is the general name. Spyware, which do spying your computer. Adware will spread ads, and worms, viruses we discussed today, all are malicious software. And then there's the question, is there any guideline for software developers to make in the code? Yes, there are secure software development guidelines. So I will maybe share you later on when I move on the lecture those secure software development guidelines. So under these guidelines and the frameworks, people have developed. People now developing their software. Then there is a question: can an organization keep penetration tester? What would be his qualification? So in the pen testing, uh, that depend. There are no specific answer for that. That depend whether your company size, your product risk, and things like that. We have to decide whether to keep the pen tester or not, and his qualification. That's really different. There are no straight answer for that. Then there's a question: to what extent does Windows Defender make those safer from virus? Uh, so I cannot. I'm not familiar with this Windows Defender and then Windows operating system, so I cannot kind of comment on that. Unfortunately. Okay. So any other questions? So I think so. If you want to ask, so I have answered like okay. There is another question. Please also share the guideline for network administrator for taking measures to prevent attack. Okay. Okay. Well, when I move on, I will provide you few guidelines, and I will have a lecture on network security as well. So in this course, so I will give you some basic guidelines where uh, uh, network administrator should follow. Any other questions or anything you want to ask? So I think we have kind of questions. How many we got? 36, right?
Mm,
Some
yes,
questions.
36 questions.
36 questions. I will answer them. So anything else you want to ask before we wrap up this session, or any comments, or you? So what I would like to know whether when I do the demonstration, whether you get it correctly. Because I can't see which I demonstrate. How you see it in your end, I can't see. I want to know whether you got it properly or not. So like once I miss the slides like that, I share the wrong thing like that. Might things may occur in that situation. Please interrupt immediately and let me know, because I may not see what you see in this my end. So there was a question. How will we kind of evaluate this course? So we are still thinking about how to evaluate it. So I might give you some practical sheets, or I might give you some online exam like that to evaluate the course. So at the middle of the course, I will let you know the methods we use to evaluate that. Okay, everybody happy with the lesson? Then let's stop for the day, and then we will meet back on next Tuesday, 16th, right? Uh, 11 o'clock Bangladesh time, right?
Yes.
Thank you very much then. So I'll stop the session for the day, and I will do the next session on 16th Tuesday, 11 o'clock Bangladesh time. Thank you. Bye for now.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Bye.